Only the weak are bound by rules. The strong are those who create their own rules and live in their own world. Sun Wukong was actually just an innocent monkey who had done nothing wrong. His only mistake was being too powerful, stronger even than the heavenly court. So powerful that he could defeat the heavenly mechanism and take control of his own fate. But what exactly is the heavenly mechanism? Why are those who refuse to obey the will of heaven and choose to live by their own desires branded as rebels, demons, and monsters? Back then, from the sky-mending stone of goddess Nuwa, the great sage equal to heaven was born. However, the great sage refused to be controlled by destiny and the laws of the heavenly court. Thus, the heavenly court branded him the demon king. The gods joined forces to destroy him. The monkey king, furious, charged straight into the heavenly court, battling the gods and shaking heaven and earth. But in the end, the great sage was defeated. Fragments of his body fell to the ground, forming the land known as Flower Fruit Mountain. Yet the monkey king's heart did not perish and became the stone heart at Flower Fruit Mountain. Upon learning this, the heavenly court decided to hunt him down completely, turning Flower Fruit Mountain into a land of death. Heavenly fire burned all things. Blizzard swallowed all living beings. The Monkey King was filled with hatred toward what the Heavenly Court had done to him in Flower Fruit Mountain. The Heavenly Mechanism is the Supreme Court of the Heavenly Court, responsible for judging the lives of all beings. The one who presides over the Heavenly Mechanism is the Supreme Saint, the Heavenly Venerable. For the past 300 years, she had been searching for the Stone Heart, the immortal heart of the Monkey King. Yet she did not know that Patriarch Bodhi had accidentally passed through Flower Fruit Mountain. Moved by compassion, he revived the Stone Heart, granting Sun Wukong a new body and a second life. Knowing the Heavenly Court would never spare Wukong's immortal heart, Patriarch Bodhi sealed his power within a human form. Reborn once more, Sun Wukong vowed to return to the heavenly mechanism and destroy the court of heaven's laws. Thanks to his rare millennia of cultivation, he was accepted into the heavenly mechanism realm as a disciple. The celestial lineage consisted of outstanding descendants of the immortal bloodline, while the earthly lineage were cultivators who had attained enlightenment in the mortal world. They gathered at the heavenly mechanism realm to partake in the immortal peaches bestowed by the Supreme Saint. Unfortunately, Wukong was one step ahead. He sneaked into the kitchen and secretly ate several precious immortal peaches, unaware that a woman had witnessed it. Coincidentally, it was time to present the peaches to the main hall. A disciple from the celestial lineage discovered that only peach pits remained in the basket. Thinking the fairy had eaten his peaches, he attacked her in anger. Quan Lim, a righteous man from the earthly lineage, saw the injustice and stepped in to shield the innocent palace maid. But this only further enraged the celestial lineage disciples. Suddenly, the bully was kicked and sent flying 10 meters away. It turned out the strike came from the woman chasing after the thief, Sun Wukong. She had failed to find Wukong, but happened upon this injustice and stepped in to help. Unexpectedly, those from the immortal bloodline behaved like petty demons. Humiliated by a young woman, they became furious. They were ready to gang up on her alone. Yet the first attacker was slammed flat against a pillar. The one who struck possessed profound inner strength. With just one finger, he could balance his entire body atop the bully's head. Who else could this righteous hero be but the Monkey King himself? He openly admitted that he was the one who ate the immortal peaches, saying they tasted no different from ordinary tomatoes. I admit I ate your peaches, but if you're thinking of rushing in to beat me up, hold on a second, because even the staff hidden in my ear is the Rui Jingu Bang. The very staff that once suppressed the mighty dragon clan. If you don't believe me, I'll just flick it lightly and anyone unlucky within a 10-meter radius will be sent flying. Looks like someone's going to need some serious reconstruction surgery this time. Yet that woman was not afraid at all. She even took the chance to pinch the great sage equal to heaven from behind for daring to steal the immortal peaches, causing her fellow palace maid to be beaten by the celestial lineage. The bold woman even compared the great sage equal to heaven to the Supreme Saint's pet bully dog. Upon hearing that someone dared to wreck her main hall, the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable immediately sent Marshal Tianping to handle it. Back in his prime, Marshal Tianping was quite a looker too, wasn't he, ladies? Using his ultimate technique of dual-blade myriad swords, he charged forward to fight evenly with his senior brother Sun Wukong. While fighting, Sun Wukong noticed the jade pendant hanging from Marshal Tianping's belt, so he seized the opportunity and stole it away, sending Tianping into a furious rage. Because it was a keepsake given to him long ago by his beloved, he immediately cast a spell, transforming his flying blades into a raging vortex that surrounded Sun Wukong. Seeing things turn serious, Sun Wukong transformed the Rui staff into a massive pillar, shattering Marshal Tianping's formation. The staff weighed thousands of pounds, yet Wukong lifted it with ease and smashed it toward Tianping. But unexpectedly, that woman blocked the staff effortlessly with a single finger. It turned out everything was thanks to the limitless strength of the muscular hero standing behind her. That man was Yang Jian, who had yet to awaken his third eye. His mother was a celestial who fell in love with a mortal, giving birth to him as neither fully human nor fully divine, yet possessing tremendous power. With a single punch, he knocked back Sun Wukong along with the Rui staff. Sun Wukong shrank the staff to fight more easily. Who would have thought he'd take another punch from Yang Jian and be smashed flat against the wall? Sun Wukong was naturally not so easy to kill, but he was again pinched a few times by that woman and knocked unconscious on the spot. Then imprisoned by the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable in the Heavenly Mechanism prison. The Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable assigned Tianping to punish Sun Wukong, but since Yang Jian intervened, he was punished together with Sun Wukong. For several years, Yang Jian was exiled by the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable to cultivate on Mount Kunlun, so that he would abandon all mortal emotions and attachments in order to become a true immortal, and never repeat the same mistake his mother once made. Yet Yang Jian traveled the world and came to understand everything within it. but still could not forget the mother who defied the laws of heaven. What the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable did not know was that another figure had already taken root in Yang Jian's heart. That girl was Ollie, his childhood sweetheart, and Ollie was the daughter of the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable. Therefore, Yang Jian always kept these feelings hidden deep inside. As a god, one must abandon all personal emotions. Thus Yang Jian was never able to awaken the heavenly eye. Yang Jian always obeyed the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable, while Sun Wukong, stubborn as ever, was tricked by her into wearing the golden headband. And mistaking it for a custom-made crown, Wukong allowed Tianping to place it on his head. He officially fell into the trap of the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable, as her enchanted spell caused his head to spin and he passed out. At that moment, the woman Ollie ran out to beg for mercy on Sun Wukong's behalf, because she really wanted to take him as her personal pet. Only then did everyone realize Ollie was the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable's only daughter. For many years, she had focused solely on cultivation and paid little attention to her, so she could not refuse any request her daughter made. Thus Sun Wukong officially belonged to Ollie. She gave him a brand new makeover, styling his hair in an extremely flashy way. As the great sage equal to heaven, how could Wukong accept such a street boy look? Wukong tried to demand compensation from Ollie but failed, so he immediately thought about betraying his master, but the golden headband on his head could not be removed at all. Ollie was holding the spell, so Wukong had no choice but to kneel and submit to her. However, everything has its limits. He's a monkey, not a dog, no need to scratch his head like that. Ollie was pinned down on the table by Wukong as a warning not to underestimate him. Unexpectedly, it was this very moment that made her heart race. She suddenly felt a strange fondness, while Wukong had no idea what love even was. As Ollie tried to kiss Wukong, Quan Lim suddenly jumped in from nowhere to interrupt. Quan Lim only wanted to ask for her phone number to make friends, but Ollie disliked him and refused. Marshal Tianping stood by, waiting for the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable's order to eliminate Sun Wukong. However, the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable was not in a hurry, as she had begun to suspect that Sun Wukong was the Stone Heart. Elsewhere, Sun Wukong also did not forget his purpose for coming here. He was determined to destroy the Heavenly Mechanism Bureau. Coincidentally, the next day was the first class at the Heavenly Mechanism Bureau. The Heavenly Mechanism Bureau was responsible for balancing the lives of the 3 realms, 6 paths, and the 5 elements of yin and yang. The key to opening the gate was a cloud pattern jade token. Nothing difficult about that. Wukong stole the jade token with ease, but he was smart enough not to keep it on himself and instead hid it among Quan Lim's belongings. Inside the Heavenly Mechanism Bureau, everyone respectfully bowed to the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable, but her purpose for coming today was not to teach her disciples, but to provoke him with words, bringing up the devastation of Mount Wagwa. To stir the flames of hatred within Sun Wukong. Seeing his intense reaction, she was finally certain that he was the resurrected Stone Heart. Ollie noticed something unusual about Wukong, so she immediately tried to interrupt her mother. She criticized the gods for destroying the land of mortals. Nearby, Tianping and Yang Jian had been closely watching every single move of Sun Wukong. The Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable already had her answer. She ordered Tianping to kill Sun Wukong and seize the Stone Heart. Sun Wukong also had his own plan. Using Ollie's message, he lured Quan Lim over, then knocked Quan Lim unconscious to retrieve the cloud-patterned key and head for the Heavenly Mechanism Gate. However, just as he reached the barrier bridge, Sun Wukong was stopped by Yang Jian. Although Yang Jian had not received orders from the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable, he had already guessed that Wukong had his own agenda. Sun Wukong showed no fear and even boldly declared a challenge. "Don't think old Sun can't beat you, you three-eyed guy." Yang Jian was enraged and immediately drew out his 3 celestial blades to engage in battle. The clash of 2 immense powers stirred up violent winds and storms. Dust and smoke filled the Heavenly Mechanism Bureau. While the two were fighting, Tianping also charged in from afar to join the battle. No wonder later, when going to retrieve the scriptures, Beiji was often bullied by Wukong. It turned out it was revenge for being ganged up on this time. The 3-way battle shook heaven and earth. 2 against 1, at best crippled if not killed. Driven to the brink, Sun Wukong unleashed his ultimate move. He enlarged the Rui staff and slammed it down onto the barrier bridge, splitting it in 2. At that very moment, Ollie and Quan Lim rushed over to watch the commotion, and were swept in by the tremendous momentum of the battle. As a result, all 5 of them fell straight into the barrier river. This river is known as the Devouring Stream. Once gods fall into it, all their powers are completely drained away. After all their power had been absorbed, the river released its waters, flushing all 5 of them down into the mortal world. After regaining consciousness, they realized they had been banished to the human realm. Sun Wukong's Rui staff was still in its gigantic form, and he had no way to shrink it back. Even after losing all his powers, Wukong still kept his provocative attitude. He was not afraid to pick a fight with both Tianping and Yang Jian. All 3 of them were hot-headed as ever, and once again rushed at each other to trade blows. Only when they started fighting did they suddenly realize they had all lost their magical powers. Suddenly, many mortals appeared outside. They regarded the 5 people who had fallen from the sky as demons. The villagers were ready to fight to the death. While the 2 sides were confronting each other, the real demon finally appeared. It was a mass of dark clouds roaring with violent winds and storms. Anyone who was sucked into that cloud never returned. The villagers no longer cared about friend or foe and all rushed into the temple to hide. Only after everyone had hidden indoors did they realize there was still a child outside crying. No one dared to run out to save the child out of fear. Suddenly, a young woman appeared and hugged the child. The moment Tianping saw the woman, he froze for several seconds, because she looked exactly like the fairy maiden he once loved back in the heavenly court. It turned out that years ago, Tianping had an unforgettable romance with that beautiful fairy, but because she violated the rules set by the Supreme Saint Heavenly Venerable, she was banished to the mortal world. Before leaving, she gave him half of a jade stone. Each of them kept one half, believing that when they met again, they would recognize each other. Back in the present, Tianping did not hesitate for a moment. He rushed out to rescue the woman and the child at the last possible instant. In exchange, he became the demon's target. Just as he was about to lose his grip, Sun Wukong grabbed his hand. Yang Jian then stepped in to help as well. One tree does not make a forest, but three together can form a towering mountain. But at this moment, they were merely ordinary people and could not withstand the demon's power. Only Quan Lim's magical artifact was capable of driving the demon away. The artifact he created had freezing powers, frightening the cloud demon into retreat. All the villagers were finally safe. To prevent the three hot-headed gods from fighting again, Ali tied all three of them up. Since they could not yet find a way back to the heavenly court, they had no choice but to treat this place as their temporary home. Meanwhile, the village's food supplies had already run dry. The villagers could only gather a small amount of grain to thank their saviors. By coincidence, this place was Sun Wukong's homeland, Mount Huagua. It had been severely devastated by the heavenly court for the past 300 years. There had been no rain at all, making it impossible for life to flourish. Plants could not survive, let alone humans. As a result, food had become extremely scarce. The villagers believed that those who fell from the sky were demons, because they had long since stopped believing that gods still existed. If the gods truly existed, how could they allow demons to torment them like this? Thinking about this, the hatred inside Sun Wukong burned even more fiercely. First, he wanted to restore this land. Coincidentally, Ali also liked this place and wanted to help Wukong. She realized that both she and Wukong could sit and watch the sunset for hours without getting bored. Both despised the injustice and the rules imposed by the heavenly court, and hated having their fates controlled by the heavenly mechanism. However, before helping the villagers, they first had to find a water source. The lack of water was likely caused by the cloud demon draining it away, so only by destroying the cloud demon could they bring back the rain. But at this time, all five gods had lost their powers and were no match for the cloud demon. To win, they would have to rely on the collective strength of unity. Yang Jian originally did not want to take part, because he was forbidden to develop mortal feelings. But because of Ali's presence, he had no choice but to join in and support. Tianping also wanted to help the villagers and the girl who looked exactly like his lover from a past life, even though she had already lost all memories of her love with Tianping. The meteor fragment she always carried was proof of their bond. She was his true lover, not a substitute for anyone else. She had merely lost her memories. At this point, to defeat the cloud demon, they had to lure it out. And the only thing that could draw it out was the sunset. But how could a land like this hell ever have a sunset? All they had now were the villagers' tattered pieces of cloth. Everyone gathered their clothes together to form a huge curtain. When light shone on it, it would transform into a brilliant sunset. What they did not expect was that the cloud demon was stronger than they imagined. A violent gale it created almost destroyed all their efforts. Sun Wukong and the others united their strength to stop the cloud demon from capturing people. After that, they rebuilt the magical device to counterattack the demon. Meanwhile, Ali and the villagers tried to restore the curtain blown away by the wind. When the moment came, Tianping used 2 torches to set the curtain ablaze, creating a sunset. Its light forced the demon to reveal its true form. Because the firing angle of the cannon was too low, Yang Jian volunteered to use his body as a firing platform. At last, a shot fired from the magical device struck the demon directly on the head. Before it could escape, Tianping swiftly trapped it in a cage. The demon gradually froze, left with no choice but to sit obediently inside. A heavy rain immediately poured down, making everyone cheer with joy. They were once 5 demons who descended to the mortal world, but now they had become immortals in the eyes of the mortals. And the 5 immortals realized that for the people here, happiness simply came from small things. After experiencing all these upheavals, Ali realized that the more she fell for Sun Wukong, the more she wanted to live freely in the mortal world. A life of hardship was still better than the restraints of the heavenly court. However, the villagers had not yet had time to enjoy their joy when they soon had to face another danger. Because nothing could escape the sight of the Supreme Heavenly Venerable. From above, she had restored the heavenly mechanism and ordered the heavenly troops to capture Sun Wukong. This time, she intended to eradicate everything down to the roots, leaving no future trouble behind. Mount Huagua would henceforth become a nameless land. When the heavenly soldiers appeared, icy snowflakes suddenly began to fall. Like a death that had been predestined and could not be changed. Quan Lian was the first to clash with the forces of the heavenly court. He was quickly beaten to the brink of death. The snowflakes from the sky suddenly turned into sharp weapons, piercing everything in their path. The heavenly venerable had given the order. Everyone involved was not allowed to survive, except for her daughter. She wanted this matter to be buried forever along with Mount Huagua. For ordinary villagers, escaping from the heavenly troops was impossible. By the time Sun Wukong and Ali sensed something was wrong and returned to the village, it was already too late. Facing the devastation before their eyes, the villagers realized that the tragedy of Mount Huagua from years ago was repeating itself. From the very beginning, everyone here was destined to die. No matter what they did, they could never change their fate. Quan Lian sacrificed his life to protect the villagers. Tianping tried to flee with his lover, but still could not escape destiny's pursuit. Sun Wukong refused to accept this arrangement and charged recklessly toward the celestial army. Even as sharp ice pierced through his flesh, he refused to submit. Trapped inside, Ollie was powerless to stop everything. She screamed in agony. She knew that once her mother made a decision, no one could stop her. When Ollie regained consciousness, she had already been taken back to the heavenly mechanism and imprisoned there. Everything returned to its original order. Yang Jian also had his powers fully restored. All of his actions were forgiven by the Supreme Heavenly Venerable. He came now to tell Ollie about Sun Wukong's situation. He urged Ollie to forget Sun Wukong and return to her true identity. Sun Wukong was imprisoned in the deepest level of the heavenly mechanism dungeon. His body was tortured until reduced to ashes, yet he clung to his last breath just to see Ollie. She was supposed to persuade him to abandon hatred and accept his fate. Ollie knew Wukong had already fought with all his strength. Enduring any longer would only bring more pain, so she cruelly spoke words meant to let him die. Her heart turned into drifting dust. From this moment on, she would take revenge in Wukong's place. Within the ashes Wukong turned into, a radiant stone remained. It was the heart of the Demon King. To grant Sun Wukong true release, Ollie cast his remains and the familiar scarf into the sealed river. But what the entire heavenly court never expected was that Sun Wukong was not dead. The body that died was merely the human form created long ago by Patriarch Bodhi. Only when that body perished did Sun Wukong truly revive. Now he possessed his real power. He would become the new Demon King and march straight to the heavenly court to demand justice. Sun Wukong released the cloud demon he had captured earlier, and said to it, "You and I are both demons. So take me to the heavenly court." Sun Wukong carried 2 tattered banners on his back, bearing the words, "Great Sage equal to heaven." He marched straight toward the heavenly mechanism. At this moment, within the heavenly mechanism, Yang Jian presented the Demon King's heart to the Supreme Heavenly Venerable. She used it to help Yang Jian open his third eye, allowing him to truly become a god. She thought Ollie had completely submitted to her mother. But instead, Ollie secretly helped destroy the heavenly mechanism. Sun Wukong said that only by destroying the heavenly mechanism could all beings control their own fate. While the mother and daughter were locked in conflict, outside, Sun Wukong had already broken through the gates. He declared loudly that even 10,000 years later, the name Great Sage equal to heaven would still strike fear. Wukong launched the battle. With his current power, no celestial soldier or general could stand against him. The celestial troops who once slaughtered the villagers below, Wukong remembered every single one of them. At the same time, Tianping appeared, now standing on Sun Wukong's side. This time, Tianping would decide his own fate. Wukong and Tianping rampaged through the battlefield, crushing the celestial army. At this moment, Ollie was eliminated by the Supreme Heavenly Venerable for defying her. When Sun Wukong stormed in, he only managed to catch her as she lay gravely wounded, barely clinging to her last breath. At last, Ollie was able to see the true form of the one she loved. She showed no disgust and still accepted Wukong as her companion. Sun Wukong promised to take her back to Mount Wagwa and turn it into the most beautiful place. But Ollie would never live to see that day. The one standing against the Supreme Heavenly Venerable now was Marshal Tianping. Years ago, by obeying her orders, he failed to protect the woman he loved. This time, he would no longer allow her to command him. After saying that, Tianping unleashed his strongest technique against the Heavenly Venerable, but her defense was far too powerful. Even thousands of flying blades could not reach her. Instead, he himself fell beneath his own blades. At this moment, Ollie dissolved into dust in Sun Wukong's arms. He picked up the golden headband and fused it into one with the Rui Jinggu Bang using magic. Gripping the Rui staff, Sun Wukong struck devastating blows against the Heavenly Venerable's barrier. Before long, the barrier could no longer withstand the assault. By now, Yang Jian had awakened his celestial eye, making him far from an easy opponent. The Great Sage equal to heaven and the three-eyed Yang Jian fought hundreds of rounds without a clear victor. When both unleashed their strongest punch against each other, Yang Jian was finally truly awakened. He realized that all this time he had only obeyed orders without question, even allowing himself to become a puppet of the Supreme Heavenly Venerable. What she called heavenly destiny was merely a scheme to consolidate her own power. If she could even sacrifice her own daughter, then someone like Yang Jian would meet the same fate sooner or later. Sure enough, when she saw Yang Jian no longer obeying her, the Heavenly Venerable grew fearful and revealed her true nature. She poured all her power into unleashing her ultimate technique, raising a colossal statue symbolizing the authority and power of the heavenly mechanism. But to Sun Wukong, consumed by rage, it was nothing more than a stone blocking his path. He summoned the Rui staff buried deep underground and hurled it toward the statue. The closer it drew, the larger the staff grew. Sun Wukong would shatter the so-called supreme authority of the Supreme Heavenly Venerable, ruler of the Heavenly Court Tribunal. Understanding his intent, Yang Jian charged toward the Heavenly Venerable at full speed. When the two strongest forces joined together, nothing could stand against them. The so-called control over destiny was reduced to nothing but rubble. Although Yang Jian and Sun Wukong fought side by side, one was a god and the other a demon. Should they meet again in the future, a great battle would be inevitable. All they wished was that when that day came, each would fight with full strength and respect for the other. After the battle, Sun Wukong returned to the mortal realm, summoning all beings who harbored resentment toward the heavenly court. From that day on, he would begin his rebellion against heaven, ensuring that even tens of thousands of years later, the three realms would still remember the name Great Sage equal to heaven. This adapted Sun Wukong film is quite interesting. Although it is a fictional reinterpretation of Sun Wukong from Journey to the West with many creative changes. It perfectly exposes the reality of those in power seeking absolute control, seizing all authority to manipulate the fate of others. And of those who realize that their destiny should rest in their own hands. They bravely rise up against oppression to live a life of true meaning. Remember the saying, one tree does not make a forest, three together can form a mountain. We must stand united, everyone. That's the end of today's movie review. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more reviews like this. Thank you for watching, see you next time.